Let's talk about something challenging. What if addiction isn't what we think it is? Not a moral failing, not just a disease, but a message. Today, we're diving into a fascinating Jungian perspective that frames addiction as a kind of language from the divine. So let's just sit with that for a second. This one question really flips everything on its head, doesn't it? It asks us to just suspend all our judgments and consider this wild idea that all the pain, the compulsive cravings, the cycles of guilt, what if it isn't just random noise? What if it's a secret conversation, a message from your soul trying to get through? So our first big idea here is what's called a divine conversation. And the core of it is this: that relentless, gnawing hunger that drives addiction, it isn't just a physical craving. It's actually a sign of a deep, profound spiritual thirst. And, get this, not everyone is wired to feel it this intensely. So what exactly is this spiritual thirst? Well, think of it as this ancient, bottomless craving for meaning, for connection to something sacred. It's a kind of hunger that a new car or a promotion just can't touch. And addiction, from this viewpoint, is basically what happens when that spiritual thirst gets misdirected. It's like trying to quench an infinite thirst with a finite substance. And this is where the path really splits. See, most people can have a drink or some experience and just move on. But for the person with this profound spiritual thirst, that's pretty much impossible. The craving isn't just a fleeting desire. It's this relentless pull towards something more, something transcendent. And that can make the ordinary, everyday world feel totally flat and suffocating. Now, this is so important. The sheer intensity of your craving isn't a sign of how broken you are. No, instead, it's a measure of how deep your calling is. The scale of the struggle is directly proportional to the scale of your potential for a profound awakening. It's not a punishment, it's a promise. Which brings us right to our second point, the sacred descent. Now, we're going to talk about relapse, which is, I know, one of the most painful, shame-filled parts of this whole thing. But what if it isn't a failure? What if falling is actually a necessary part of the journey? I mean, really think about that. This challenges everything we're taught about recovery, that it's supposed to be this straight line, always moving up. But this perspective says no way. It suggests that the collapse, the fall back into the darkness, is actually a required step. It's a necessary descent into the underworld of yourself before you can ever truly rise. This is what's called the sacred spiral. It is not a vicious circle of failure that puts you back at square one. It's more like a corkscrew. With every turn, you might pass the same point again, but you're going deeper. Each fall isn't a reset, it's another chance to learn something new, to get closer to the real truth at the very center of it all. And this is where things get kind of tricky, because it's a total paradox. You can't just willpower your way out of this. Your ego, your fighting spirit, it's just not enough. True progress, true change, only begins with surrender. And that doesn't mean giving up. It means admitting that you're facing something bigger than you, something that requires a different kind of power altogether. Which leads us right into our third section, confronting your shadow. Okay, this is pure Jungian psychology, and the big idea here is that the key isn't to fight the darkness within you, but to actually turn around, understand it, and integrate it. So what is the shadow? It's basically everything about yourself that you've pushed down and denied. All the anger, the fear, the shame, the desires you were taught were unacceptable. But here's the thing, that rejected energy doesn't just disappear, it builds power in the dark. And addiction? Well, addiction often becomes its voice, its way of screaming to finally be acknowledged. And this is a huge realization. Trying to kill or shame away the parts of yourself you don't like is like trying to outrun your own shadow. It's a battle you will never win, and all it does is make the shadow stronger and the addiction more powerful. The only way out is through. Integration means turning to face that darkness. It means looking at the anger, the fear, the shame, and accepting them as part of your whole self. You don't have to act on them, but you have to acknowledge them. The moment you end that internal war, the addiction starts to lose its fuel. And what's really crucial to understand is that the shadow isn't just a monster. Hidden inside it are some of your greatest strengths, your most authentic truths, and the raw power you suppressed because maybe you were afraid of it. So integrating the shadow isn't just about healing a problem, it's about becoming whole and reclaiming their power. Okay, now we are getting to the absolute heart of this entire argument. Section 4, the God-shaped void. This is where we finally understand why the craving is so relentless and why a substance can never, ever satisfy it. I mean, this is the great deception of addiction, right? It always promises one thing and delivers the exact opposite. You reach for it looking for peace or connection, and what you get is chaos and isolation. This repeated betrayal is a massive clue about what you're really hungry for. And this is the core of it. You're trying to fill an infinite spiritual hole with a finite material thing. It can't work. It's like trying to fill the Grand Canyon with a teaspoon. Of course, the craving always comes back, because the true need, the deep need for a divine connection, is still completely unmet. So you see the mismatch here. What you crave, the substance, it's just a temporary escape, a way to go numb. It's a placeholder. But what your soul truly needs is a permanent connection, a way to feel whole. You're craving the placeholder, but you need the real thing. The real work of recovery, then, is learning to tell the difference. And here's the amazing transformation. When you stop fighting the craving and you start investigating it, asking, what am I really looking for right now? It changes from your master into your guide. It literally becomes a compass pointing you directly toward what your soul is starving for. And finally, our last section. Let's bring this all home. The wound becomes the gift. This is all about how the deepest source of your pain can be transformed into your greatest strength and your life's purpose. This is such a radical idea. We're always taught that the goal is to heal completely, to make the scars fade away. But what if some wounds aren't supposed to disappear? What if they're sacred marks, intentionally left behind to give you a unique gift? This is the sacred wound. It's a core pain that maybe never fully closes. But instead of being a weakness, it becomes your superpower. It gives you this incredible capacity for empathy. Because you have been to the depths of this particular kind of suffering, you become the perfect guide for others who are lost there. Your pain becomes the very thing that qualifies you to heal others. It's not a curse, it's your credential. So let's just quickly recap this whole transformative journey. Your thirst, it points directly to your purpose. Your falls, they're a sacred descent. Your shadow, it's actually your guide. Your craving, it's a spiritual map. And your deepest wound, that becomes your greatest strength. Every single negative part of the experience gets reframed as a necessary and powerful step. And so we end with this. When you look at the struggle through this lens, the question is no longer, how do I destroy this thing? It becomes, what is this thing trying to tell me? The addiction was the messenger, the alarm bell, the fire that burned away all the illusions. Now that you're awake, the real journey can finally begin.